Hey y'all, JD's a big back, and we are back with some more Kingdom talk. It's been a while, but hey, last talk that I covered, it wasn't a lot to really cover, just a very tragic backstory for Issei. Regardless, it was very moving, and I really love the development of Issei's character. Issei has finished his tale of his past to Q, and he's revealed that his senses and pain has returned. And of course, Q is just bawling her eyes out from hearing his past. Along with Tien, Shin is going through the market trying to find some armor for himself, but to no avail because every owner thinks it's either for his big brother or for his dad, and of course this frustrates Shin. Shin runs into some old comrades, and they tell the people of the bar of Shin's achievements, from becoming just a normal foot soldier to 100-man commander in just one fell swoop. And of course, this is to everybody's shock. They also help Shin get his armor, and on the way home, Tien and Shin run into Kyukai. Back at the royal capital, we see some assassins take out a man on a cart, one of 11 at the time. It turns out that all the men that were attacked were under Shibunkan, and it ballooned to 15 men. They suspect more than one assassin clan to be involved, mainly the Goma and Kensen clans. Turns out it was 5 assassin clans that were involved in the attack. It's the Goma, the Kensen, the Kakuri, the Shokyu, and as well as the Shihu, represented by just Kyukai. The Shokyu clan has served the Shiyu for over 200 years, and the Shiyu have been feared for over 1,000 years. She has arrived to Shibunkan to put his input on the situation, and once they realized that the last man that was killed was at the main gate of the royal palace, Shibunkan realized that the main target is the king himself. At the royal palace, the Kensen clan is making their way through the palace, and they get halted by Shin and Tien. It was she who contacted Shin, who was the main foil to his plan to overthrow the king with his brother, and he was able to analyze and deduct how impactful Shin was in that battle. Shin begins to fight the Kensen clan, and even though they have a few tricks up their sleeves, they're no match for Shin whatsoever. As Shin is fighting, he and Tien notice some men on the rooftops, and this ends up being the Goma. They've located the sleeping chambers of the king, and they're on their way to him. Shin orders Tien to go ahead and warn the king, and he does. But he runs into the Kakuri clan, and just when it seems like it's game over for Tien, Kyukai arrives. We learn that Q met with Shin and Tien and kind of warned them about what was going to happen at the royal palace, and that they should not be involved. But knowing Shin, it was a no-brainer. Q orders the clan to hand over Tien, but why would they? Meanwhile, Shin is handling the Kensen clan, and he's able to take out all of them except 2, and they end up retreating. The clan ends up attacking Q, and it's not even close. Like, he just slaughters all of them except one, and the one is just scared to the bone of Q. Shin is able to catch up to Tien, who is just on the ground, frozen from what they saw, and Tien warns Shin that Q is not normal. In his sleeping chambers, Issei is armed with a sword, ready for whatever, and just as he opens the door, it ends up being Shin and Tien. Shabunkan and the others have made it to the Warrior Palace, and they see the slaughtering of so many people. Shabunkan, Heki, and Shi have their own theories as to who's responsible for these attacks, and they're able to pinpoint who is responsible, and it may be the worst possible scenario for everybody. And just as Issei and the others are making their way through the halls, and they get to a door that's been locked from the outside, Issei is able to deduce who is responsible for these attacks, and this ends up being the Chancellor Ryu. Just as the Shikyu and Kyukai arrive, Shin is able to take out one, and then Kyukai instantly steps up and asks Q a few questions, and they answer except for who hired them. Shin gives Q an out to just walk away, but Q isn't leaving without the king's head. The battle begins, and it does not look good for Shin. Q was able to dodge every and all attacks from Shin, even dodging a thrust from his sword and landing on top of it. Q was able to land a lot of attacks on Shin, but his body is still intact, so he still has a lot of fight left in him. Shin doesn't buy what Q is doing or saying, but he has to protect the king no matter what. As Shin and Q are battling, the remaining Shikyu are detailing the history of the Shiyu clan, and we learn that the Shiyu is passed down from individual to individual, and it's determined by who is the last one alive. They have a lot of respect for the Shiyu. The two remaining assassins don't have respect for Q, who should have slaughtered Shin by now. But before they can even take action, the Goma have arrived, killing one of them, and they want the king's head. Shin asks Q for a truce, but they decline, but they do suggest that they have a plan, and they just need 30 seconds to get themselves together. Shin begins to fight the Goma, and he's quickly surrounded by him, and they just lay hella attacks on him, but it's just plenty of time for Q to get in position. Q then begins some type of dance and easily beheads like 5 Goma, and then starts to slaughter the rest of them, and then it's like as soon as they're done, they fall to the ground from exhaustion. With 3 Goma left and 1 Shikyu left, it's only Shin and Tien that are able to defend the king, but Shabunkan and the others finally arrived to take out the remaining Goma. Shabunkan and the others want to take in Q, but Shin isn't having it since they were once comrades, and they also help protect the king. While Shin is sleeping, Q makes their way out, and they're met by Tien, who suspects Q to be a girl. Just as Tien is confronting Q, Issei is telling Shin about Q's true identity. And the only reason Issei knows this is because the Shiyu inheritor has always been a woman. Ken reveals to Q that she's a girl too, and she wishes to train under Q. Then we learn of Q's past and how they had an older sister, and both of them were going for the Shiyu position. But the night before, Q oversleeps by some incense left by her sister, so she can go on and fight by herself, but she ends up getting killed by the current Shiyu. Now Q's goal is solely to find and kill the current Shiyu. The next day, a meeting is held to determine what to do with the Chancellor, and just as things are getting started, the Chancellor himself has arrived, as well as his retainers and whole faction. We get a little tease of Ryu before he's fully revealed, but before that, his faction is introduced, and each one of them is just oozing aura and presence, and it pales in comparison to Ryu himself. Even Shin couldn't speak. He was completely shook by the Chancellor's presence. Ryu admits to being the culprit, but is very relaxed and comedic because he knows the power gap is so large between him and the king. Mobu makes his presence felt by asking for a royal hearing, and he requests for the 6th general system to be revived. So the 29th king of Quin, Sho, personally appointed each general to freely wage war against the neighboring states. This made their attacks very unpredictable, and it sent fear throughout China. And we learned that my boy Uki was one of the members. Though no such thing can happen right now due to certain circumstances, the Chancellor and his faction decide to make their leave. Y'all, this was a very dense and crazy arc. Part of me was wanting to save the royal hearing for the next arc since it ties into it, but since it's technically in the same arc, might as well. I'm very interested in knowing more about the 6th general system, how it was created, the purpose of it, just everything. This story just makes you want to learn more and more about the world and the characters and just the different factions and diplomacy from each state. But if y'all thought this arc was dense, y'all ain't seen nothing yet for what's about to come. But y'all let me know what you think of this arc in Kingdom. How you feel about Q and learning that they're a female. How you feel about the Chancellor and his faction. How you feel about the 6th general system. Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch y'all later.